I signed the papers with a smile on my face. My mother held the pen out to me and said it was just a precaution, that I was always so busy, that it would be easier if she could handle some things for me. Power of attorney, access to my accounts, financial decisions in my name. I trusted her, because she was my mother, because family is family. 3 years later, the lawyer called me with a question that shattered my world. Mr. Carter, did you authorize the sale of your house? My house. The one I bought myself. The one I paid for with my own sweat. It was being sold. And I didn't even know. Love doesn't protect you from legal abuse. And when you realize that the person who should be protecting you is using the law against you, it's already too late to have lost something. But it's not too late to stop losing the rest. I grew up believing that family was sacred. My mother repeated this since I was a child in Portland, Oregon. She said that blood is thicker than water, that people out there will let you down, but family never will. I took that seriously. Maybe too seriously. When my father died, I was 22 and had just graduated with a degree in engineering. My mother was left alone in that big house with mounting bills and a pension that barely covered the basics. I didn't think twice. I started sending money every month. At first it was $300, then $500, then $1,000. She always had an emergency. The roof, the refrigerator, the car. I never questioned it. Because she was my mother. Because I could. Because I thought I was doing the right thing. 10 years passed like that. I built a solid career as a civil engineer in Seattle. I earned well. I bought my own house at 31, a modest 2-story house in Ballard, but it was mine. Every brick paid for with overtime and weekend work. I felt proud. I felt I was honoring my father's memory, taking care of the family, being the man he would have wanted me to be. My mother called every week, always affectionate, always interested, always with a small request here, a need there, and I always said yes. Because that's what good sons do, right? Then came that conversation. It was a Sunday afternoon. She had come to visit me, and we were having coffee in my kitchen. She said she was worried about me, that I worked too much, that if something happened to me, no one could sort things out, that it would be a mess. She had a simple solution, a power of attorney, just to make things easier, just for emergencies. Just so I could have peace of mind. I hesitated for a second. Just a second. But then I looked at her and saw my mother. The woman who raised me. The woman who cleaned my scraped knees and sat in the audience at every graduation. How could I distrust her? I signed the papers that same afternoon. She had brought everything ready. At first, nothing changed. I continued working, paying my bills, sending her money. The power of attorney was just a piece of paper tucked away in some drawer, I thought. A security that would never be used. But I should have noticed the signs. They were there, small, discreet, like cracks in a foundation that you only see when it's too late. My mother started asking more about my finances. How much I earned exactly, how much I had saved, if I had investments. I answered because I thought it was genuine maternal interest. She said she wanted to be sure I was being smart with my money, that many young people wasted it all. Then came the suggestions, that I should put her name on the checking account, just in case, that I should transfer some investments to her name, for tax protection, she said. I politely refused these things, but without alarm. I just thought she was being overly cautious. Maybe even a little paranoid about her age. It never occurred to me that there was a plan, that this power of attorney wasn't about protecting me. It was about having access, and access, I was learning, is power. Power over your life. Power over your choices. Power to destroy you while smiling in your face. 6 months after signing the power of attorney, I started noticing small irregularities. An automatic payment that failed. A statement showing a withdrawal I didn't make. $200, then $300. I called the bank, confused. The clerk checked, and said the withdrawals were made by my legal representative, my mother. I was paralyzed for a moment. She hadn't asked me. She hadn't informed me. She had just taken it. When I confronted her, her response was calm, almost offended. She said I had given permission, that she needed the money for a medical emergency, that she would pay me back, that I was being ungrateful after everything she had done for me. And me? I believed her, because it was easier to believe than to accept what was really happening. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever signed something because you trusted the person? Because it seemed impossible that someone you love could use it against you? If you're watching this now and something inside you is stirring, like you recognize that feeling, I need you to subscribe to this channel, because what I'm about to tell you in the next few minutes might be the thing that saves you from losing everything. And leave a comment telling me, where are you watching from now? I want to know you're here with me. During the following year, the withdrawals became more frequent. $500 here, $700 there, $1,000. Always with an excuse. Always with a promise of repayment. And always with that same tactic, making me feel guilty for questioning. She said she had sacrificed everything for me, that she had given up her own life to raise me alone, that the least I could do was help her now that she needed it. And I carried that burden. I carried the weight of the debt she said I owed, the debt of being born, the debt of being raised, as if love were a transaction, as if maternal care were a loan to be repaid, with interest. I started working more. I accepted extra projects, entire weekends at the office, because I needed to cover not only my own expenses but also the loans she took from my account. My colleagues commented that I looked tired, that I had lost weight, that I should take a vacation. But how could I? How could I stop when every break meant not having enough money for when she needed it again? And she always needed it. Always. My relationship started to suffer. I was dating an amazing woman, Jennifer, an architect, intelligent, kind, funny. But when she tried to make plans, I always had an excuse. I was tired. I had work. I didn't have money. The truth I didn't tell her. Every extra dollar went to my mother. Jennifer eventually asked if something was wrong, if it was her. I said no, but I didn't tell her the truth, because I was ashamed. Ashamed of being 33 and not having control over my own money. Ashamed of being manipulated and not being able to say no. Ashamed of being a grown man who let this happen. Jennifer broke up with me after 8 months. She said I was physically present, but emotionally absent. That she felt there was a wall between us. She was right. There was. The wall was made of guilt, obligation, and a deep fear of facing what was really happening. It was a Tuesday night when something inside me shifted. I was sitting on the couch, staring at my bank statements from the last 18 months. Number after number. Withdrawal after withdrawal. $27,000. $27,000 that simply vanished from my account. And I had nothing to show for it. No medical emergencies treated. No house renovated. No car repaired. Just empty promises and recycled guilt. For the first time, I allowed a dangerous question to enter my mind. What if I was being robbed? Not by a stranger. By my own mother. The thought made me physically nauseous. I ran to the bathroom and stood there, leaning against the sink, staring at my own reflection. I looked 10 years older. Sunken eyes. Gray hair at the temples. I was 33, but I looked 45. And why? To uphold a lie I was afraid to admit. A lie that told me that questioning my mother was betraying my father. That setting boundaries was being cruel. That taking care of myself was selfish. All lies. But lies I had swallowed so deeply that they had become part of who I was. I started researching. I typed power of attorney abuse into Google at 2 in the morning. The results chilled me to the bone. Pages and pages of stories like mine. Children who trusted. Parents who took advantage. Families destroyed by a signature and a false sense of security. I read about cases where people lost homes, cars, life savings, all legal, all authorized, because they had signed a piece of paper, just like me. And I realized something fundamental. The legal system doesn't protect you from your own trust. The law doesn't ask if you were manipulated. It only asks if you signed. And I had signed. But one phrase kept coming back to my mind as I read, "Waking up late isn't the same as waking up too late." There was still time. There were still choices. I might not be able to recover what I'd already lost, but I could stop losing the rest. And that understanding, however small, ignited something within me. Not anger, not revenge, just a cold, clear determination. This ends now. The last straw wasn't dramatic. It wasn't an explosion. It was a phone call. At 3 o'clock on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. I was in the office reviewing blueprints when my cell phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me press the green button. Mr. David Carter. A male voice, professional, neutral. Yes. This is Thomas Brennan from the law firm Brennan & Associates. I'm calling about the sale of the property located at 4427 Ballard Avenue. We need to schedule the signing of the final documents. My brain took a full 3 seconds, to process. Sale? What sale? I think you called the wrong person, I said. I'm not selling anything. There was a pause on the other end, the kind of pause you feel in your stomach. Mr. Carter, according to our records, your legal representative, Ms. Margaret Carter, initiated the sale process 2 weeks ago. She submitted all the necessary documentation. The power of attorney is in order. The ground disappeared beneath my feet. Legal representative, Margaret Carter, my mother. What? Property? My voice came out strange, thin. Your residence in Ballard. The offer was accepted 5 days ago. The closing is scheduled for Friday. My house. She was selling my house, the house I bought, the house I paid for, the house that was my only refuge in the world. And she was selling it, without asking me, without telling me, just selling it. Is there a problem, Mr. Carter? The lawyer sounded genuinely confused now. And why wouldn't he be? To him, everything was legal. Signed papers. Valid power of attorney. Just another real estate transaction. He didn't know he was witnessing a legalized robbery. I need a moment, was all I could say before hanging up. My hand was shaking so much the phone almost fell. Around me, the office continued to function normally. People typing, talking, laughing at some joke in the hallway, as if my world wasn't crumbling. As if I wasn't discovering that the person who gave me life was now trying to take everything from it. I called my mother. Straight through, without planning, without thinking. She answered on the second ring, her voice cheerful. Hi, son. As if nothing was wrong. As if she wasn't committing an emotional and legal crime at the same time. Are you selling my house? Silence. A heavy silence, pregnant with calculation. Who told you that? No denial. No surprise. Just, who told you? As if the problem was that I had found out, not that she had done it. And at that moment I knew. I knew there was no misunderstanding. I knew there was no going back. I knew that every penny, every promise, every manipulative tear had been part of a much bigger plan than I had imagined. Mom. My voice was firmer now. A firmness that came from somewhere deep inside that I didn't know existed. You're selling my house, yes or no? She sighed, that long, dramatic sigh that always preceded a lecture about how I didn't understand anything. David, we need to talk about this in person. No, now. Phone. Yes or no? Another pause. Shorter this time. Yes, I'm selling. But listen, there's an explanation. I had some unexpected expenses and you don't have permission to sell my house. Yes, I do. You signed the power of attorney, remember? You gave me legal authority to make financial decisions on your behalf. The coldness in her voice cut me deeper than any knife. There was no regret, no guilt, just the cold statement of a legal fact. You signed, so I can. That was it. Years of, I love you. Years of, I only want the, best for you. Years of family is everything, reduced to a single brutal truth. You signed, so I can do whatever I want. This is theft, I said. No, darling. This is legal. There's a difference. Maybe you should have read what you signed before you signed. The condescension in her voice made me clench my teeth, as if I were a stupid child, as if I deserved this for trusting her. I trusted you, and you were right to trust me. I'm doing this for your own good. That house is too big for you. It's too expensive. You're always complaining about work. With the money from the sale, you can move to something smaller, more manageable, and you'll still have some left over to invest. Where's that money going, Mom? I asked. Because I already knew the answer. Some will come to you, of course. And some, well, I need it too. It's not fair that you have everything while I can barely pay my bills. There it was, the stark truth. She wasn't protecting me. She was serving herself. And she thought she was entitled to it, entitled to my work, entitled to my achievements, entitled to my life, because she gave birth to me, as if it were a perpetual debt. I'm going to stop this sale, I said. How? She laughed. You signed the power of attorney, David. It's valid. It's legal. Unless you can prove I'm acting against your interests, there's nothing you can do. And good luck proving that. I'm your mother. Obviously, I have your best interests at heart. The call ended. There, not with a bang, but with a soft click. And on the other end, I sat in the silence of my own defeat. At least, that's what she thought. But there was one thing my mother didn't know about me. When I build something, I build it strong. And when something is structurally compromised, I don't hesitate to demolish and rebuild. She had just become a compromised structure. The next morning, I was at the door of Brennan's law office at 8 o'clock. He hadn't expected to see me. He was visibly uncomfortable when I explained that I hadn't authorized the sale, that my mother was abusing the power of attorney, and that I wanted to stop everything immediately. Brennan was a man in his 50s, bald, with that weary look of someone who had seen a lot of ugly things in life. He listened to me in silence. Then he sighed. Mr. Carter, I understand your frustration, but legally your hands are tied. The power of attorney is valid. Your mother has the authority to carry out this transaction. Even without my consent? You gave your consent when you signed the document. Those words sounded like a sentence. So there's nothing I can do? There are options. You can revoke the power of attorney. But that doesn't automatically cancel transactions already in progress. You'd have to contest it in court, prove bad faith, prove she's acting against your interests. It's expensive. It's time-consuming. And honestly, even if you win, the damage may already be done. He was right. I saw it in his eyes. Compassion mixed with helplessness. He'd seen cases like this before. People who trusted. People who lost. People the law couldn't save because the law wasn't made to protect you from your own goodness. But Brennan gave me something valuable that day. He gave me 3 names, 3 lawyers specializing in abuse of power of attorney cases. Call them, today, now, because Thursday is the preliminary closing. If you want any chance, you need to act now. I called from the parking lot. The first lawyer couldn't see me for 2 weeks. The second said family cases were too emotionally complicated, and he preferred not to get involved. The third, a woman named Rachel Foster, answered at 11 in the morning. 39 years old, hair pulled back in a tight bun, eyes that seemed to have seen every possible form of human betrayal. I told her everything. The 27,000, the power of attorney, the house, the phone call. She didn't seem surprised. Not at all. How many times? Did you say no to her? She asked. The question caught me off guard. Not many. How many? None. Rachel nodded, as if that confirmed something. Mr. Carter, I'm going to be direct with you. Your case is difficult. You signed a broad power of attorney voluntarily. There's no evidence of coercion. There are no witnesses to abuse. Everything your mother did is technically legal. What you have is a case of emotional and financial family abuse. And those are the hardest to prove because the victim usually doesn't realize they're a victim until it's too late. So I'm lost? I didn't say that. I said it's difficult, not impossible. She opened a folder. Let's start by revoking that power of attorney. Now. Today. And then we'll fight. Revoking the power of attorney was surprisingly simple. One form, 2 witnesses, 1 notarized signature. Rachel prepared everything in 40 minutes. This prevents any future transactions, she explained, but it doesn't automatically cancel the sale of the house. For that, we need to file an emergency lawsuit. She had a plan that involved documenting everything. Every unauthorized withdrawal, every broken promise, every emotional manipulation. Building a case that showed a pattern of abuse. It wouldn't be quick, it wouldn't be cheap, but it was possible. I signed her contract right there. Then I left the office and did something I should have done months ago. I blocked my mother's access to all my bank accounts. The bank manager was understanding. It happens more than you think, he said as he updated the system. Parents, adult children, spouses. Trust is a powerful weapon in the wrong hands. In 15 minutes, it was done. My mother could no longer touch my money. It was a small protection. Late, but it was something. For the first time in years, I felt that my own hands were back in control of my life. It wasn't victory. Not yet. It was just a thread of possibility. A thin thread, but real. That night, she called me 8 times, left 4 voicemails, each one more frantically desperate than the last. David, we need to talk. David, are you ignoring me? David, what did you do with the accounts? David, you're being manipulated by these lawyers. They just want your money. The last message was different, colder. Fine, David. If this is how you want to play, we can play. But remember, I still have the power of attorney, and the sale is still happening. You may have blocked your accounts, but you can't block the law. She was wrong. The power of attorney was revoked, but she didn't know it yet, and I wasn't going to tell her. Because for the first time, I had an advantage. She thought she was still in control. On Thursday morning, Rachel managed to get an emergency hearing. The judge was an older man, Judge Anderson, known for not tolerating family manipulation. My mother showed up with her own lawyer, an oily man in a gray suit who became visibly nervous when Rachel presented. The revocation of the power of attorney. My client wasn't informed of this revocation, he protested. Your client, Rachel replied calmly, doesn't need to be informed. A power of attorney can be unilaterally revoked by the grantor, which is exactly what my client did, legally. The judge looked at my mother, then at me, then at the documents in front of him. The sale is suspended, he said, until this case is properly examined. It wasn't a victory, but it was a draw, and a draw was more than I had 3 days ago. After the hearing, I stood in the courthouse hallway for a long time. The building smelled of old papers and heavy decisions. People passed by me, carrying folders, talking quietly about cases, testimonies, sentences. Everyone had their battles, their betrayals, their wounds. I was just another one. My mother came out of the room with her lawyer. She saw me. Our eyes met. For a second, I hoped there would be something there. Remorse, shame, even genuine anger would have been better than what I saw. Nothing. Just an empty, calculating look, as if I were a problem to be solved. Not a son. A problem. She turned and left without a word. And something inside me broke. Not in the dramatic way you see in movies, not with tears or a breakdown. It was quieter, deeper. It was the sound of a rope that had held too much weight for too long finally snapping. The rope that bound me to the idea of family as something sacred. to the idea that blood means loyalty, to the idea that maternal love is unconditional. All those ideas, those beliefs that defined me for 33 years, dissolved in that cold courtroom hallway, and in their place remained only clarity, the cold, sharp clarity of someone who finally understands that they were a tool, not a child. The following days were strange. I went back to work. I finished my projects. I talked to colleagues. But it was as if I were living in two realities simultaneously. On the surface, everything continued. Beneath it all, everything had changed. I began to review my entire life through this new filter. How many decisions had I made out of guilt? How many opportunities had I missed because I was bearing the emotional and financial burden of someone who never intended to reciprocate? Jennifer. The relationship I ended. That promotion I turned down because I needed time to help my mother. The trip to Iceland I canceled. The life I didn't live. Everything had been sacrificed on the altar of a lie that I should. Rachel called on a Friday afternoon. I have news. Your mother's lawyer contacted you. She wants to make a deal. What kind of deal? She gives up the sale of the house. You give up suing her for the $27,000. Everyone moves on. It was tempting. So tempting. I would get my house back. I would avoid months or years of legal battle. I could start rebuilding. But there was a problem. $27,000. My money, my work, stolen. And she thought she could just walk away without consequence. No, I said. No? Rachel sounded surprised. I want every penny back, and I want it on legal record what she did. I won't settle. That could take years, David, and cost more than you'll recover. It's not about money. Not anymore. It's about her knowing she can't do this. That she won't get away with it just because she's my mother. There was silence on the other end. Then, okay, let's go to war then. The war wasn't explosive. It was bureaucratic. Piles of paperwork, depositions, endless hearings. Each session took pieces of me, but also removed the fog. With each document examined, each bank statement analyzed, each lie of hers exposed, the truth became clearer. Not just to the judge. To me. My mother had planned this. It wasn't opportunism. It was strategy. The power of attorney, the questions about my finances, the incremental withdrawals. It was all part of a larger plan, to slowly empty my accounts while preparing the final blow, selling my largest property. If I hadn't received that phone call from the lawyer, she would have succeeded. In March, 6 months after the initial hearing, the judge issued his decision. My mother was required to return $23,000. I couldn't recover it all because she had already spent $4,000 and claimed medical needs. The house would remain mine. And most importantly, it was officially recorded that she had abused her position as attorney. It wasn't imprisonment. It wasn't complete justice, but it was recognition. Legal recognition that what she did was wrong. And sometimes recognition is all you need to move on. My mother called me after the sentencing. I answered. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe expecting an apology. Are you happy now? She asked. Bitter voice. You destroyed our family because of money. At that moment, I could have screamed. I could have listed every lie, every manipulation, every sleepless night because of her. But I didn't, because I realized something fundamental. She would never understand. For her, family meant access. Love meant obedience. And when I set boundaries, I became a traitor. There was no argument, evidence, or sentence that would change that. I didn't destroy anything, Mom. I just stopped letting you destroy me. I hung up. I blocked the number. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel guilt. I felt peace. A strange, empty peace. But peace nonetheless. She tried to contact me through relatives. Uncles and cousins who barely spoke to me suddenly appeared with messages about forgiveness and family. I replied politely but firmly. This isn't about forgiveness. It's about safety. And I don't feel safe around her. Some understood. Most didn't. Some called me cold. Others said I would regret it. But for the first time, their opinions didn't hurt me. Because I had learned something crucial. The opinion of people who haven't lived through your pain isn't worth the weight of the air it took to express it. I had lived it. I had suffered. And I had decided that living in peace, even alone, was better than living in chaos pretending to have a family. It took almost a year for my life to return to what I could call normal. But it was a new normal. A normal where I checked every document before signing. Where questions about my finances were answered with, "That's private." Where help had clear limits and was expected. Not out of cynicism, out of, self-preservation. I had learned the difference. Jennifer, my ex, contacted me a few months after the sentencing. She had heard about the case through mutual acquaintances. She called me and asked to meet for coffee. I hesitated, but I agreed. We sat in a coffee shop on Capitol Hill. She ordered a latte. I ordered a black coffee. We were silent for a moment until she spoke. "I'm so sorry for what you went through. And I'm so sorry I didn't understand at the time. You couldn't have known. I didn't tell you." Why not? It was an honest question. It deserved an honest answer. Shame. I was in my 30s letting my mother steal from me. What kind of man allows that? She touched my hand on the table. A man who was taught that loving means sacrificing everything. It's not weakness, David. It's abuse disguised as love. And it's normal to take time to realize that. We talked for 2 hours. About life. About boundaries. About rebuilding after family betrayal. In the end, she gave me something unexpected. A possibility. Not of reconciliation. Too much had changed. But of friendship. Of someone who understood, even belatedly, the burden I carried. It was a small beginning. But it was a beginning. And after a year feeling like everything was ending, beginnings had a different weight. They began to mean life. Not just survival. I went home that night and looked around my 2-story house. The walls I almost lost. The floor that was almost sold beneath my feet. And I didn't just feel relief that I still had it. I felt pride. Because I had fought. Not with violence, not with revenge, but with boundaries. With the hardest word a child can say no. Gradually, I began to rebuild other aspects of my life. I accepted that promotion I had passed up. I booked the trip to Iceland, alone, but not lonely. I started therapy, something I should have done years ago. And slowly, session by session, I learned to separate the wounded child who still wanted maternal approval from the adult who deserved peace. They were different people. The child could cry for the mother they never had. The adult could live without her. Both could coexist, but only one needed to make decisions. Today, 3 years after that phone call that changed everything, my life is unrecognizably different. The house in Ballard is still mine. I pay every cent of the mortgage with renewed gratitude. I have a new relationship, not with Jennifer, but with someone I met through work. Someone who, when I told my story, didn't run away, didn't judge, just listened and said, "Thank you for telling me. It helps me understand who you are," which is all someone who has experienced family betrayal needs. Someone who accepts the scar without demanding that you pretend it doesn't exist. My mother? I haven't heard from her in 2 years. I learned through a cousin that she moved to Arizona. He lives on Social Security money and what he managed to save before sentencing. Part of me, the child, still feels sadness. Another part, the adult, feels peace. Because it understands that some people cannot love without controlling. And control disguised as love is not love. It's prison. And I'm not obligated to live in a prison just because the person who built the bars gave me life. Giving life doesn't give you the right to take it back little by little. I learned something fundamental through all of this. Family justice doesn't look like criminal justice. There are no prison sentences. There's no guaranteed rehabilitation. Sometimes, justice is simply this. You stop bleeding. You rebuild. You live your life without having to look over your shoulder wondering what will be taken from you next. It's not glamorous. It's not satisfying the way movies show it. But it's real. And real, I've learned, is better than comforting fantasy any day. I still carry scars. I still have days when guilt tries to return. When a voice in my head asks, "What if you were cruel? What if she really needed to be?" But then I remember what my therapist said. Cruelty is hurting someone unnecessarily. Boundaries are protecting yourself from those who are hurting you. Never confuse the two. So I don't get confused. I live, I work, I love, I laugh, I build. And when doubt comes, I take a deep breath and remember, you survived. Not only did you survive, you learned. You learned that trust needs to be earned, that family is more than blood, that real love doesn't empty you, it fills you, and you learned the difference between being good and being used. That difference? It saved my life. It can save yours too, if you let it. If this story touched you, if you recognized parts of your own life here, I need you to do two things. First, like this video. Not because of the algorithm, but because that like tells me you understood, that you were here with me until the end, and that matters more than you imagine. Second, subscribe to this channel. Because stories like this, real stories, unfiltered, without forced happy endings, are what I bring to you. And there's a video on the screen now that you need to watch next. It's about another person who woke up late, but not too late. Click on it. Because if you're here, you know, waking up hurts, but continuing to sleep kills. See you in the next one.